November 13th, 1974. A man bursts into a bar screaming that his parents have been shot. What the police later find in this man's home will terrify and haunt an entire community. 1 year later, a family moves into the same home, and they begin to notice strange occurrences throughout the property, including a voice telling them to get out, as if buying a house wasn't stressful enough. Be careful of that sweet real estate deal, because the Amityville Horror was inspired by a true story. Welcome to True Crime for Cinephiles. This is inspired by a true story, a podcast devoted to keeping artists honest. And after listening, or right now, whatever you want to do, please leave our show a review on your app and share Inspired by a True Story on Reddit or X or wherever you share true crime podcasts. That would be greatly appreciated. We will discuss the overall details of the actual crimes and situation, then review the film on its own, how much that is true and how much was Hollywood magic. And I'm Aaron Peterson, an accredited film critic for the Hollywood Outsider podcast and website. And when I'm told to get out of a house, I get the hell out. And devoted true crime followers are joining me today, and film critics, John Davenport.
When a dog is acting weird, I gotta go.
And Amanda Sink.
Hello, hello. I don't know. The real estate game is different these days. I think if I got like an $850,000 house for $80,000, I would take it. I'd be like, look, we just got to find a way to be friends here. If there's a room that I'm not allowed to be in, cool. That's fine. I'll take it. What's one bedroom down?
In today's market, that house would be $800,000, but they bought it for $200,000. But your point still stands.
My point stands. Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like none of that was necessary to point out.
There
John.
There are a lot of things that I would do for
good property value.
Yeah, at that discount.
Can you imagine even getting a house for $80,000 these days?
Not one that has more than 2 bedrooms.
If the bodies were still in the house, I'd take that deal. I'm saying, leave them. That's fine. You don't have to clean that up. I'll take care of it. I got it.
I'd be adding the ghost to my family portraits.
I would change my last name to theirs. I'd do whatever I had to. Look, we are one unit now.
Rewatching this reminded me of the old Eddie Murphy joke where he said, this is the difference between black people and white people, is if a black family moves into the house. You're like, I love this house. This is going to be great. Get out. Well, it's a shame we can't stay.
1,000%.
Oh, that's funny. I had seen this one. John, Amanda, you both have seen this movie before, yes?
Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen it. I really did have to sit down and rewatch it again.
Yeah, same. I couldn't remember much about it, and I'm glad that we specified which one we were going to watch, because there was a remake that came out later on.
With Ryan Reynolds.
What did you say before he had a career?
Yeah, it's Ryan Reynolds before he had a career. This is when he was trying to get that fame going. He was doing everything he could, so he took some horror movies, too. Okay, well, on this episode, there are actually 2 main stories, the DeFeo murders and the Amityville Horror house itself. So get your crucifixes ready. As of this recording, the Amityville Horror, both the 1979 and the 2005 remake with Ryan Reynolds we were just talking about, they're both streaming on Max, but that is always subject to change. And if you didn't know what it's about, newlyweds and their 3 children move into a large house where a mass murder was committed. They start to experience strange, inexplicable manifestations which have strong effects on everyone living in or visiting the house, including priests and nuns. And nuns play basketball in this movie. I don't know if you know that, but they do. They were dribbling.
They know how to dunk. Leave them be.
It's awesome.
She got game.
She does. Stars James Brolin, Margot Kidder, and Rod Steiger, going full Steiger, if you know his roles. And it's directed by Stuart Rosenberg, based on the book The Amityville Horror by Jay Anson. Anything further you want to say before I go into DeFeo family murders first?
I guess the only thing is just to help people understand how many layers there are to this, because there's connections also to the Warrens from The Conjuring, in terms of like their exploration of the fake or real experiences that occurred.
I will mention the Warrens here as we go.
There's like 3 separate sections to it. There's like the original murders, there's the Amityville house and, you know, what occurred in there for the people who moved in. There's the after of all of that and all of the research that has gone into it to explore the legitimacy. So just to like get everybody level set, there's a lot to this one.
There's a lot. Okay. Whew. Well, film and true crime fans alike are always debating how true their true crime is. We're going to discuss both the murders and the insanity that occurred in and out of that freaking house. So it's time to pack it all up and move in to 112 Ocean Avenue and hear the truth behind the Amityville Horror.
Please be warned. Inspired by a true story, deals with crimes that may contain adult themes and violence and is intended for a mature audience.
November 13th, 1974, 6:30 p.m., Amityville, Long Island. A young man, 23 years old, bursts excitingly into Henry's bar and screams, "You've got to help me. I think my mother and father have been shot." That man's name was Ronald DeFeo Jr. So a small group of patrons decided to help this erratic young man, and they accompanied him back to 112 Ocean Avenue, Ronald's home. His parents, Ronald Sr. and Louise, had lived in this home since 1965. As the patrons of Henry's Bar searched the home, they did indeed find the parents, and both were deceased. DeFeo's friend was one of these patrons, Joe Yeswit, and he made the call to emergency services and summoned the Suffolk County Police to the scene. Police arrived and immediately conducted a full search of the home. That's when the police found the bodies of 43-year-old Ronald DeFeo and 42-year-old Louise DeFeo. Both were shot twice with a .35 caliber level Action Marlin 336C rifle. Both were dead. Unfortunately, that is not where the search ended. As they continued, police also discovered Dawn, 18 years old, Allison, 13 years old, Mark, 12 years old, and John Matthew, 9 years old. 4 children, all face down on their stomachs, each shot with that same rifle, all dead. Ronald DeFeo Jr. was the eldest child in the DeFeo family, and he was the only survivor of the massacre. On the scene, DeFeo indicated he believed these murders could be the result of an organized crime hit, which would be a stretch as his father was a car dealer. He even went so far as to name the hitman, Louis Fellini. Suffolk County Police took DeFeo to the station for safety and protection, just in case his assumptions were correct. However, the police found some great inconsistencies during that interview, such as the murders occurred hours before DeFeo reported them. The alleged hitman, also Fellini, he had an alibi. So the following day, Ronald DeFeo Jr. confessed that he had, in fact, murdered his entire family. He famously stated at the time, "Once I started, I could not stop. It went so fast." He further confessed that after he murdered his brothers, Mark and John Matthew, his sisters, Dawn and Allison, his mother, Louise, and his father, Ronald Sr., that he went and calmly cleaned up, took a bath, changed his clothes, and proceeded to clean up the crime scene. And then he went to work as usual. He led the police to where he dumped the bloody clothes and the Marlin rifle and ammunition. A confounding element of the ensuing investigation is that each and every family member was found lying on their stomachs in their beds. The police concluded the victims were asleep and obviously did not hear the other gunshots. There was no silencer discovered, and it appeared only Louise and Allison had been awakened at all by gunfire, due to the accumulated physical evidence. There appeared to be no sedatives or drugs in any of the victims, though DeFeo claimed to have drugged his entire family. And most troubling, not a single neighbor reported hearing a gunshot. So when he went to trial, Ronald DeFeo Jr. attempted to claim insanity, because nothing sounds crazier than cleaning up a crime scene and heading to work for the day. He claimed he had no memories of committing the murders. His psychiatrist at trial supported the insanity claims, though the prosecution psychiatrist asserted that DeFeo was a drug addict with antisocial personality disorder and that DeFeo knew exactly what he was doing at the time of the murders. So Ronald DeFeo Jr. was convicted on 6 counts of second-degree murder and sentenced to 6 terms of 25 years to life. He died in prison at the age of 69 on March 12, 2021. Just so you know, there's like 666. That's uncomfortable. Over the years, DeFeo Jr. has given numerous accounts of the murders. None of them the same. He had also pointed the finger at both his sister Dawn and his mother Louise, despite them both being killed as well, and there being no physical evidence to support these claims. Ronald DeFeo Jr. was married to Geraldine Gates. He claimed they met in 1970 at one point and married in 1974, and therefore she was his alibi. Yet, their documented divorce case in 1993 stated that they met while he was incarcerated in 1985 and married in 1989. Ronald DeFeo Jr. murdered his entire family, and the only motive seems to be life insurance, as he did ask detectives how to claim life insurance while he was being interviewed initially. But truly, nobody knows. DeFeo was a consistent liar. He had multiple claims disproving everything he said time and time again, so we never know what can be true. What we do know is this young man shot his brothers, his sisters, his mother, and his father while they slept. And 1 year later, George and Kathy Lutz bought that house. But first, let's talk about the DeFeo case, because I want to know from you guys before we move on, would you even buy a house that had 6 people murdered in it a year ago?
I would totally do that. Why not? I mean, what's the house going to do to me when it has that many bodies on it?
So you believe in the theory that houses don't have memories, as the movie says?
Yeah, I don't believe in that theory. I think people carry the memories and people carry the energy with them.
Again, it all comes down to the value of that house and what I'm buying it for.
So your soul is for sale, is what you're telling me, Amanda.
Absolutely. In this economy, 100%. 100%. This is America. Somebody's got to do it.
I honestly probably wouldn't have a problem with it as long as it was all cleaned up and tidied up. That kind of deal is just impossible to pass up.
That's how they get you. That is how they get you.
That's how the demons
And I'm fine
go.
with that. You know what? I personally, and I know we've had one episode, I think, where we've talked about ghosts a little bit. I personally, have experienced ghost-like experiences.
Now hold that thought till we get to the ghostly stuff.
So all I'm saying is, if there were dead bodies in the house, I've already been there. Like, I would probably say as long as the person was served justice who killed them, because otherwise then I'm going to be brought into a whole ordeal where I have to play Veronica Mars to figure out who killed them, prove it, get them convicted, just so these people can get out of their like middle purgatory place or whatever and move on. So, and I don't have time for that if I'm trying to move into a new house.
If we could, let's keep it to the real world.
Right.
Let's keep it grounded a little bit.
Like, there's so many layers here where I don't buy it. Like the fact that you're going to take responsibility and investigate a crime like this.
I am officially part of the FBI. Okay. I don't know if you know this, but women get a stamp of approval from the FBI as investigators.
What?
So 100%. Oh, if you didn't know this, it's a good thing you're married. But Yeah.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but it sounds
what
like
I'm talking about.
You
is
can claim
women...
insanity. That's what I'm hearing.
Women are grade A investigators. So, of course, I would take on an activity like investigating a murder and bringing people to justice. That sounds hella fun.
Does that include looking at facts or just making things up as you hear about rumors?
Both. You have to do both. Rumors are there's always a hint of truth usually in rumors.
Oh,
it's about determining what the truth is.
Okay, back to the actual story. Back to the story.
Fine.
This is the second one in just a few episodes that has been about a person who murdered their entire family. And this one is very interesting because at least you're seeing kind of a cross thread where neither one really wants to take responsibility. John Emilist, he didn't want to. For the stepfather, he didn't take responsibility really either. He's kind of did, but also he didn't. And here you've got someone that initially confesses and then bounces all over and actually gets to the point where he does blame his sister at one point. He blames his mother at one point. But he really came back to the sister multiple times, even though there was no forensic or physical evidence to support his claims. So what is it about someone that just cannot, is it a matter of I can't accept the fact that I did this horrible thing, or just I'm just such a sociopath, I'm going to deny it and blame everyone else until the day I die?
Amanda?
Yeah, you're in the FBI.
I think that the reason he initially tried to pretend he didn't do it is because he thought he was going to get away with it. And when he realized that things were unraveling, and that not everything was as clear cut as he had hoped, he was like, well, I'm just going to accept it. I don't know why. Maybe he enjoyed the publicity. He knew he would get out of it. Clearly had some mental things that he had been going through at that time as well. But he went out of his way to get rid of the evidence that linked him to the crimes, from what I had read. So to me, you knew everything you were doing.
I think that in my mind is painfully obvious that this is not an issue of an insane person, because it seems premeditated. He cleaned up the crime. He got rid of his clothes. He staged the, oh my God, I found my parents, they were shot situation. That is somebody setting it up so that they can get away with it. Mm-hmm. And then he's caught and he does everything he can to get. So this is a sociopath. This is somebody who had obvious issues with his family for whatever reasons, and he couldn't kill one without killing all of them in his mind.
Well, I mean, he even took the time to be like, how do you collect insurance? It's
not a question you ask when your whole family's been murdered.
No, you really don't. And it is
if you did it and you need somebody to pay the bills.
Sure.
I suddenly have 6 coffins I have to go buy. Go figure. It's a crazy question to ask, and for anyone to think that this is anything other than what it is on the facts is, I find this whole idea of following this ghost story and saying this is more of a ghost story is more like people's inability to trust that we are capable of being this downright evil.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get to the house here in a minute, but that is something that has come up from it, right? People have tried to blame the spirits in the house for what Ronald DeFeo Jr. did, instead of just saying, no, he just murdered his family. He's just an evil person. Because I think then, this didn't really happen to our town. This really didn't. And people love a conspiracy theory. There's so many people that just love a conspiracy theory. And that is one that is a little out there for me personally, but I'm sure a lot of people believe in that sort of thing. Wild.
Based on the amount of true crime podcasts out there and the amount of conspiracy theory documentaries and podcasts out there, I would say that there is a good portion of our society that at least has intrigue with these and want to figure out if they could buy into them or not.
I've had some people say, "Why you guys don't theorize enough with your podcast?" I'm like, I don't want to go down that well. There's too many shows that do that. Where you start throwing darts at what people did or didn't do, and you have no proof of it. I just think that's careless. I don't want to do that.
it's trying to sensationalize something, and I don't think that's what we're here for. We're really here to just discuss like the differences between a movie and the actual crime where they happen, and then have minor thoughts here and there about the facts of the crime. That seems more like what we're up to.
Hey, minor thoughts, my friend. All right, these are high level. We've got the FBI on this podcast. We've got high level discussions going on. Jesus. Okay, now we're going to segue to the house. Everybody ready for the house discussion?
Yes.
This is what I'm most excited to talk about, if I'm being honest.
Dear Lord. All right.
Well, because I know how you feel about it, and I know I'm more in the middle. I'm amiable. You can convince me one way or the other.
I am not amiable.
I know.
But
you're stubborn.
Let's go with or I like facts. I like things you can prove. I like details. And speaking of, let's get into the Amityville house itself. December 18th, 1975. 112 Ocean Avenue. It has since been changed to 108 Ocean Avenue to discourage tourists. But I'm still telling you in case you want to drive by. The same house Ron DeFeo Jr. murdered his entire family. This home was a Dutch colonial 3-story with windows that looked like hell's eyes, a gambrel roof, a pool, a boathouse, and was located on a canal. Beautiful property. Absolutely stunning property. George and Kathy Lutz, they were aware of the house's history, but homes have no memories, right? Even though they do have bloodstains, George. I digress. The Lutzes purchased the home for a steal at $80,000. And Kathy's children from a previous marriage, Daniel, 9 years old, Christopher, 7 years old, Melissa, or Missy as she was known, was 5 years old, and they all moved in. Also, much of the furniture in the home was left over from the DeFeo family, because nothing says Christmas like a murder bed. George was a Methodist, and Kathy was a Catholic, both non-practicing. And they insisted on having the house blessed. According to their accounts, or the book's accounts, a priest, Father Ralph Pecorano, referred to as Father Mancuso in the book, arrived to bless the home while the family were unpacking their things. There was also a claim that George heard a phantom marching band moving through the house, and that is why he initially called the priest. Upon entering a bedroom on the second floor, the priest flicked holy water and began his prayers. And then he heard a voice. It was a deep, manly voice. The voice said the words, "Get out." So that priest promptly got the hell out of there. But apparently did not mention this incident to the family until Christmas Eve, 1975. Father Pecorano, or Mancuso, you decide, called George and advised him to keep his family out of that bedroom, the one that he heard the voice in. He stated that after his visit, he contracted a fever and blisters on his hand, which he attributed to stigmata, meaning bodily wounds, scars, and pain which would appear in locations corresponding to the crucifixion wounds of Jesus Christ: the hands, the wrists, feet, near the heart, the head, etc. This call was then cut short by static. At this point, the Lutz family had not experienced anything strange in the home. The incidents began after this call. It is important to note this, as many skeptics see this as the point of either opportunism, while believers attest this is when the spirits decided they have toyed with the Lutzes long enough, and it's time to get real. Here are some of the incidents that occurred, allegedly, in that house. George would wake up every morning at 3:15 a.m., said to be the time that Ronald DeFeo Jr. murdered his entire family. A strange, unknown odor permeated the home. A green ooze or slime was seen bleeding out of the keyholes and walls. The home was unnaturally cold. Doors were ripped off of hinges. Kathy claimed to be beaten and scratched by unseen hands in the middle of the night. Cloven hoof prints were said to be found outside in the snow, though independent investigators indicated there was not even snow at that time, just for context. A hidden red room was found under the stairs by George Lutz. The smell of human excrement covered it. It was later defined as nothing more than a closet or a play area where the DeFeos used to keep toys by Patty Camarado, a friend of Allison DeFeo, who stated that room was not hidden in any way. The subsequent owners corroborated this. Other claims included a knife being knocked off a counter by a spirit, a pig-like creature with red eyes staring down George and Daniel, and even that Kathy, Daniel, and Christopher all had been witnessed levitating in their beds. On January 14th, 1976, the Lutzes did finally get out. They left all their possessions behind, they took the kids and their dog Harry and skedaddled their asses away from evil. They had no problem sending movers back to retrieve their belongings, though, and the movers and subsequent owners of this home observed no such hauntings.
They're like, hey guys, need you to go get our things because there's some demon shit going on, but like, we're not going, but we got money and we'll pay you. We don't care about your health, safety, security, or sanity.
Devil's there, very dangerous, we're all going to die. You go.
And they clearly didn't have a ton of money, so it's not like they paid them a bunch extra.
I don't see any problem with anything you guys are saying right now. This all sounds normal.
Says the guy who had maids growing up. Okay.
He had two of them.
Yeah, one used to sit there and pop the knuckles on my toes while I watched TV.
Anyway.
That's weird.
Anyway.
That is questionable in terms of what's acceptable.
Yes,
okay?
that we should talk about that on the Sound of Freedom episode coming up.
Oh my God.
Apology. Back on topic. I think we lost Amanda, though.
Yeah, I think you just killed her.
Okay, all right. I'm good.
The Lutzes did not work with the author of the book, Jay Anson, directly. Instead, they turned over 40-plus hours of recordings recounting their accounts of staying in that house for less than a month. The book sold millions of copies, and the subsequent movie became a horror classic. But the ultimate question is this: was any of this true? So there's some interesting things to mention based on what's in the movie and what's in the book. There was no bar called the Witch's Brew at this time. There was no damage to any of the doors in the home found by any subsequent person to enter that building. All of the old hardware was still in place.
Well, could they have maybe replaced those things? Like if my door came off, I'd probably replace the door.
They said they left in the middle of the damn night and left everything behind. I don't think they're fixing doors when they're blowing off hinges. The real priest who did bless the home and was concerned of a possible haunting because of the horrors that occurred there previously claimed to have suffered no illness nor stigmata.
Oh, so he's saying y'all liars.
Or it's important to note that they were not directly involved with the book and the movie, so there were some embellishments. Writers always embellish, right? So you take that too.
That's fair.
Part of it is true. He was concerned about a possible haunting because of the horrors that occurred there. The book and the film both depicted numerous police arrivals to the home, but no records validate that they were ever called to that house. A paranormal investigator, Stephen Kaplan, stated that George Lutz approached him about investigating the house after he moved out, then canceled due to their claims that they did not want further publicity. It was only a short time later that the Lutzes contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren, famously of the Conjuring series. And we're going to come back to them. Kaplan was very suspicious of Lutz's claims and his motives. He later published the Amityville Horror Conspiracy, which in his words, in his opinion, proved the entire setup was a hoax. The Lutzes, though, they never returned to that home. They sold the house at a loss, and all of the furnishings were sold at auction from a distance. George and Kathy Lutz both took lie detector tests. They both passed.
It should also be noted that lie detector tests can easily be bypassed.
I wouldn't say
they're not
easily.
a good, true testament of the truth.
They're not admissible in court, which is why you should never take one.
So they're not easily bypassed,
They
especially
can be,
by
yeah.
mom and pa. I saw dead people.
But mom and pa who saw dead people, in the theory here, right, is that they are creating this grand scheme hoax. If they're that smart to do that, they're surely smart enough to take enough deep breaths.
It's the 70s. Nobody's that smart.
I don't disagree with Amanda. I also am a firm believer in the theory that if you repeat a lie enough times, you start to believe it as fact.
Okay. All right. I'll give you that.
I'm just trying to, because I've been a little biased here, so I'm trying to give the other side.
Because you're all on board the ghost train? Choo-choo?
I am on board. I'm on board the possibility of the ghost train. Okay.
Okay. Hey,
That's all.
I'm not. People believe what they want to believe. I'm going to be fine in any house, that no matter day or night, no matter where it is.
My biggest thing is, and I know we've still got more to cover, but what motive do they have for this? If I get a good ass house for a cheap ass deal, ain't nothing taking me out of there.
Well, I've got that coming too, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
Strap in,
All
put a seatbelt on.
All right. In the 70s, we didn't use seatbelts. I shouldn't say we. I wasn't alive.
That's true. That's true. All true facts. George and Kathy had a few financial issues, and selling an outlandish story could prove quite profitable. Though it should also be mentioned, this tale did not make the Lutzes rich. But attorney William Weber had a falling out with them over money, and after that proclaimed that he and the Lutzes had concocted this entire story over many bottles of wine. That's his quote. The motive being to get another trial for his client, Ronald DeFeo, using the devil made me do it defense, and the Lutz's motive being that George Lutz was financially strapped and needed money badly. Weber did eventually file a $2 million lawsuit against the Lutzes, charging them with reneging on their book deal. Moving on, all of the Lutzes, including the children, have defended these claims in the decades since. Kathy and George divorced in 1980, and both have since passed away. Kathy died of emphysema in 2004, with George passing away in 2006 after enduring a battle with heart disease. Christopher, who was 7 at the time of living in the house, is the only one of these children to speak out directly on the issue. He told the Seattle Times in 2005, after the Ryan Reynolds remake released, that, quote, "So far, there's been 3 representations of what happened in that house. And not one of them, not the book, not the movie, nor the remake, is accurate." He further stated, on the subject of George Lutz, quote, "He's a professional showman, in my opinion." Christopher Quarantino said of Lutz, whom he said he clashed with many times before leaving home at 16, "I just feel as though we're being exploited."
But all the other kids are saying, yeah, this shit happened.
They said things happened in that house. Yeah, they're cooperating.
Things happened.
Yep.
Okay.
3 kids. 2 are defending the situation, and 1 is on the record saying that he was a professional showman, in my opinion, and that we're being exploited.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. Oh, and one last thing. In February 1976, Ed and Lorraine Warren were filming an investigation and a seance on the Amityville property. They claimed to sense an unearthly presence in the house. The house was haunted, they said, by the angry spirits of Indians who had once inhabited the area, and also by inhuman spirits. The story was that the Shinnecock Indians had used that very parcel of land as a place where sick and insane members of the tribe were isolated until they died. They did not bury the dead there, however, because they supposedly believed the land was infested with demons. There is no proof of this claim, according to the American Historical Society, but Ed and Lorraine Warren stuck by it. The Warrens you may know from the Conjuring films. and we will be coming back to them on an episode down the road. And it should be noted before we close this story out that Jay Anson wrote the book that was used for the movie, and writers do embellish for dramatic effect. George and Kathy Lutz never changed their story. They moved their family into that home. They experienced horrific events. They left everything and fled in the middle of the night. They stuck to their story until the end. Until their deaths, they maintained that what was in the book was quote-unquote mostly true. How much so? Well, that's up to you. So how much is true?
That's your cue, Amanda.
Guys, I have a lot of mixed emotions on this. I have a hard time telling somebody who we have not identified as being insane, right? Or like out of their mentally normal state of mind.
Out of their mental capacities.
Mental capacity, thank you. Mm-hmm. To say that what they did experience, they didn't experience. Like, I have a hard time with that. I have experienced my own little ghostly things, which you guys can chalk up to weird experiences if you...
Give us one. Give us your biggest one.
So Charlie used to do a lot of weird things.
Who the fuck is Charlie? What?
Charlie is the ghost who lived at my house.
Okay.
But I wasn't the only one who saw this shit. It wasn't just me. But Charlie would do really weird things. Like he, and it could be electrical. Like all of a sudden the light in the fan would turn off. Okay, fine, whatever. One time I literally saw the cord of the box fan come unplugged from the wall. Like someone was taking it out themselves.
You sure you didn't have like a brother,
I'm positive.
Your brother pulling on the cord and like,
nope.
I got her again. What?
I was living alone. I wasn't living alone, but I was alone in that moment. But there were all of the other things were witnessed by other people and experienced by other people. So Charlie was a real ghost.
Why does Charlie get a name? Just so it's easier to identify, so you don't say the figure, the specter.
I didn't want to be mean and just be like, hey, ghost. I'd be like, Charlie, could you please stop? I'm trying to sleep.
You want to be nice to the thing supposedly torturing you?
He wasn't mean to me. All he would do is like, it was almost like, I thought he was like a kid because he would do kid stuff. Anyway, I know I sound crazy because ghosts is
just
it's not something you can prove.
There are a large amount of people listening right now that go, I feel you, Amanda. I went through this and I went through that. And hey, everybody has their own experience. Mine isn't one of those. That's all. Yeah,
I just have a hard time like telling so many people for so many generations and thousands of years that like what they experience, like spirits not being real. And it's weird because I'm not a religious person. You would think that I would be very religious and believe in ghosts because of that. But if there's one thing that I do believe in, it's that there's a possibility for spirits to linger on in either a positive or negative way. Like I really, really do. And I have felt that way since I was a little kid. And I've had my own things. So I'm like, I can't say that, hey, none of this happened to these people. Did they maybe exacerbate some of it for their own gain or motive? Sure, it's possible. But I also feel like they didn't have even the money that they would have gotten out of this was not enough to supplement everything that they had to go through and put their kids through, and losing out on, let's be honest, a really, really nice house that there's no way they could otherwise afford.
Maybe they couldn't afford it to begin with, though. It was still a very expensive house. It wasn't like a cheap house. $80,000 in 1979 was a lot of money.
That's true. And maybe they got into it and the house was just like a piece of crap. And they were like, whoa, what did we get ourselves into? We got to get out of here. I don't know. And that's totally fine if there is some falsities to it. But I do feel very strongly that in every lie, there's always a thread of truth. There's always something that's true that it shapes it on. And that's what makes a lie sustainable long term. That little piece of truth.
Well, hang on. What happened to Charlie, by the way?
I moved.
Did he follow you?
Mm-mm.
Oh. So you didn't get him with a proton pack or anything like that?
No, and he wasn't a mean ghost either. He really wasn't. And I have friends.
Well, it's good that we have friendly ones. We want Casper.
We do. He was basically
demons.
like a child Casper. He really was. He was just I don't want to say he was annoying in case he can somehow hear me, but he just did things that were like very inconvenient.
I mean, it's a radio wave or a digital wave into the ether. Of course, ghosts can hear that. Yeah,
I don't want to mess with him. So he was nice to me. We were good. We were good roommates.
You think he has the Apple app or Spotify?
He might. He's like, hey, Siri, what's Amanda saying now?
Leave a review, Charlie. Leave us a review if you would.
I was going to say, Charlie sounds more like a Spotify dude.
Yeah, probably. Share the show with your spiritual friends, Charlie.
Right.
Could you imagine if we got downloads and it was like unknown destination or IP or whatever it was?
It's showing all the different countries, but this one doesn't exist.
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
It's just over the middle of the ocean.
The Bermuda Triangle. That's a fun one we should talk about sometime.
So my feeling is on this, I'm going to break Aaron's heart, but I want to believe that something like this is possible. I want to.
Mulder.
I want to believe that it's true.
Why? Let me ask you why. Why?
It means that every story that there are things greater than us are absolutely true. You know, abilities, thoughts, powers, whatever you want to call it. It means that all those things are absolutely true. So I really want to believe that this is possibility. It means that God is real. It means the devil's real. It means angels and demons are fighting for our souls. All those things. I want to believe that's true. And as a kid, I might have had experiences that I can wax philosophically on that make me think, you know what, maybe it's a possibility. But I was also, in single digit ages when that happened. So I can't really count on myself. Mm-hmm. I can say that since I've been an adult, I've never seen anything like that or been able to believe in anything like that since I've been an adult. And when I say adult, I mean at least 25 and older. So either I, as a child, I have a stronger connection to what could have possibly happened in the ether or in the spiritual world, or B, it just wasn't real and my imagination ran away. I'll let you guys be the judge. I think I know what the answer is. That's why I want to believe something like this is possible.
But do you?
I don't.
See, that's what I'm getting to. Why don't you?
Why don't I? Mm-hmm. So I don't, because this is too sensationalized. The crime is too sensationalized. The Warrens getting involved adds a level of sensationalism, even way back in the 70s, especially way back in the 70s, that make this a bigger deal than it actually is. People cannot be trusted. People will find ways to exploit themselves and their family around them to just get a leg up on top of something.
Sure.
And if I wanted to be at least slightly give them the credit, they got in over their head on this house. They showed up, they got this house. They're like, hey, this is really great. Oh my God, look how much money we're pouring out to fix everything. And we haven't even stopped unpacking yet. Let's figure out a way to get out of here. You know, all these things could be possibly true.
Yeah. I would add to that Christopher, the youngest, alluded to George Lutz as a showman, right? And there are instances where both a lawyer came forward and said, hey, we concocted this whole thing to get money and to help my defense. That's something that can get him disbarred. Why would he go public? I was going to say,
isn't that super illegal?
Yeah, it is. Yep. I think it depends on if they did anything in the court, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not an attorney. I don't want to jump into those waters. But what I will say is the fact that he's made that statement, and I realize, the other kids are kind of siding on the course of, yeah, we're going to support mom and stepdad. When kids are little, they can be easily manipulated in many ways. This is scientifically proven time and time again. It's a big part of psychiatry that sometimes parents can manipulate their children to believe certain truths and untruths. I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm saying that they could have manipulated the situation to get the kids to believe. Now, I think it's an important note that the occurrences didn't happen until after that phone call, when the priest seemed to feel there was something going on in the house. But also it's also further note, the priest says didn't have any stigmata, didn't have a fever, none of that. I'm just saying that there's a potential for being haunted, and in that particular room it felt eerie, whatever, because people were murdered there. To me, that almost now I'm saying, like, if you're reading it like a book, if you were to follow the timeline, in my mind, that says that's where an idea was hatched. You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going?
Yeah, that makes sense. It was the spark where they were like, oh, we can use
this, get out of this house that we're too over our heads in. We just have to play it right. We have to get the kids involved. Kids are pretty easily manipulated. You can just knock on some walls and be like, Mom, I heard something. Really? I was in the kitchen. There's things you can do. The red room was proven to not be anything at all. It was always there. There's just so many things that were proven untrue. And it also is very important to note, the house is still lived in to this day. Not a single owner since then has had any issues whatsoever. No one.
Well, maybe
the ghost just got bored. Got chilled. Yeah. He's like, you know what? I was so uncalled for. Bill, why did we do that? Why did we torture this family and they left in the middle of the night, and then they sent some movers in? What kind of sons of bitches are? Well, what does that say about us? Like, what, now we're going to torture movers? That's not cool. Those are blue collar workers doing a hard job. We got to stop this. This is not fair. Is that what happened? Because that's the only way that makes any sense to me.
Okay, so a couple other things that I want to call out is one, and this is the most disappointing part of all of this. I was like, oh, wow, this really could have like some merit to it. Nah, it doesn't. So the local Shinnecock Indians rejected the claim that the house was built on a site where the tribe had once abandoned the mentally ill and the dying. So if they were like, oh yeah, we did have, our tribe in this area, this is our land, you guys, there would have been more merit to that for context. So that's kind of unfortunate.
Because it reminds you of Poltergeist. That's why. You're like, oh, that happened in Poltergeist when she got sucked into the TV for reals.
For reals. The other thing, though, and I think that this part also has merit to even to Aaron's conspiracy, right? That maybe
conspiracy. Isn't it more likely that my version is a factual?
I think that they're both
would be a conspiracy?
Feasible.
Okay.
From my perspective, they're both feasible things that could have happened.
Okay.
To me, it's bizarre. It's hard. Okay, one time, sure. Second time, maybe it's a coincidence. But when you have like hundreds of years of people perpetuating similar stories of like exorcisms and like ghosts in the house and all of that, it's hard to believe that not a single one of them are true. That's my perspective. Now, Father did specifically say in his interview for a TV series In Search Of that he did, in fact, enter the home and that he was slapped by an invisible force and told to get out. If I hear that a man of God was slapped by an invisible force and told to get out, I'm going to believe him, though. So, like, it's very possible, to your point, that once they had an understanding that he had his experiences and that he felt a presence, that it morphed into something more. And it also could very, very well be confirmation bias, right? Like you start to see all of those little things as being connected.
People do that all the time. You hear one horror story. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you hear one story of something horrific in an area. People have that in every town, right? Every town has that Blood's Point or some weird place where if you drive over it, your car will stop or something like that. I'm just referencing a local wives' tale. Now, you hear it, and so everybody starts to think that it's true. That's kind of what you're saying. It snowballs. Yeah, and then you also start to look for the rationality because nobody wants something that you can't explain away. That seems, that's bizarre that's happening. So even if the things they had happen in the house were happening, it could be the result of something legitimate that they just never investigated further to figure out the root cause of, because now they have it in their minds that there's ghosts in here.
And when that gets into somebody's head, I can't imagine that ever leaving my head. Like if I came into my house and then some dude with Christ was like, yeah, I just got bitch slapped
Some dude with
by
Christ
a demon.
Got bitch slapped by demons. All right.
I'd be like, that's all I'm going to think about. Like if this ghost in here, if this demon has the audacity to slap Jesus's son or whatever, like surely I have no hope and it's coming for me too.
See, there's a difference between you and I, because I'm like, well, it's probably that little boy that passed away you knew when you were younger, priest.
Stop.
No, I understand what you're saying. I do think that gives validity to the. I don't have a problem with the priest's account, because the priest said, hey, there's no stigmata. I didn't have a fever. I'm just saying there was a voice that said, get out. And apparently I got bitch slapped, according to this interview. Okay. I mean, I get that. He's also a man of the cloth. So, that's who they're going to slap. Demons don't like those guys. I just,
they're like, get out.
Yeah. Get out. Yeah. Get out. Take your stupid outfit and get out. Where I don't necessarily mean that means that the family was being tortured, because in my mind, if there were really demons out there, and I'm not saying that there's not the possibility.
You kind of are.
I don't subscribe to that theory, but sure, anything's possible till it's completely disproven, I guess. And I've never experienced it ever. Deja vu, sure. Things out of place that I could have swore we were in a different place, sure. Could I just have, early onset dementia? Sure.
Likely. More
likely than a ghost. Sure. But everybody has their opinions. I've gone with people to places where they say a certain place is haunted. I've been to Savannah, Georgia, and went on haunted tours where they take you to supposedly haunted houses. I've never experienced anything. I've been with people who said they felt a presence. I didn't feel anything except cold. Like, because it was cold in that particular location. Doesn't mean because
Aaron,
a demon
that's a sign
by.
of ghosts.
Or
don't you
that
understand?
I should have brought a coat. Maybe it's that I just should have brought a coat.
But you don't even get cold. You leave your house at 63 degrees in the winter.
Just saying.
You're not a good representation for what's considered cold.
I guess I'm a skeptic. I guess you could say that.
You are a skeptic. And I don't think that the ghosts would bother spending their time trying to convince somebody who's so far invested in their beliefs that it's not real. Instead, they would try to get the glimmer of, like, I don't know, showcasing their truth to people who do believe.
They don't want to waste their time on me, right?
And are naive.
I don't want to waste their time
like
on
me.
naysayers.
You know what? No, this Aaron's the perfect guy for ghosts to go after, because
Come at me.
He would never believe.
He would never believe.
He would never believe that it was ghosts. So, like, all those things that Aaron's kid did wrong in the house that they shouldn't have done in the house, it was the ghost the whole time.
You said she. Are you outing one of his children?
No.
Who did what again? Who? What? I'm telling you right now, I could sleep in Amityville in 1976 or 5 or whatever, and I would have been fine. It wouldn't. I doubt I would have noticed anything. I just, whether it be maybe the words from the priests manifested in their id, and it created this fear, this impending doom, this snowball effect, possible.
I see that.
Or they hatched a plan, possible. Like, in my mind, the timeline fits because the call is when it starts, really. So the call is a catalyst for what comes next. However you define it, that's what the call was. And I don't think the ghosts are listening to the calls and be like, oh, shiznit. The priest rated us out. Guys, we got to step up our game.
We got to double down.
Yeah, we gotta get things going.
That's funny.
Who's got the ooze? Who's got the can of ooze?
So the ooze is something where I was like, guys, what is this, flubber? Come on. Like, stop.
Well, I'm just waiting for Slimer to come out of the wall. It's just, what? Okay.
I would have bought it better if Slimer did come out of the wall.
So are there any ghost, I guess, I mean, we're going to come back to the Conjuring series later in the year. That's one I know John's wanted to cover for a while because he's got a lot to say about the Warrens. So please don't think we're not going to talk about the Warrens, but that's basically like 2 episodes. There's no way we're going to do it in 1, so we'll come back to it. But are there any of these cases or hauntings or inspired by a true story based on these events where you say, yeah, I think that's 100% true, or at least mostly true?
You mean the ghost stories ones?
Yeah, movies based on ghost stories. Ghost, supposedly haunted houses.
I can't think of a single one where I'm like, I buy it.
I believe the stories that I hear from like friends and family of their experiences. I definitely believe in a lot of the like Mexican and Indian
Chupacabra kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Yep, those things. Like I do believe in those. But in terms of like a specific movie that really represents something that I believe in, probably not. And I also know to take movies with a grain of salt because I know that they're going to take it a few steps further just for entertainment value.
Sure.
Like even if there was something like, I don't know, the Blair Witch Project or Paranormal Activity or whatever, even those, it's like, well, yeah, of course they're going to make it seem more extreme than it probably would have even been from like a real life situation. But I will tell you, the first time I saw Paranormal Activity, I went into that blind as a MF, and it was a midnight showing, so it was a packed theater. And I believed every minute of that dang movie that this was real. I went home. And I do not get scared by scary movies. For context, I'm usually pretty good. But I went home and I was like, I'm not even peeing with the door closed. Like, I'm not getting caught up in here all alone, just trying to pee. Somebody's going to be able to come help me. I don't know why I thought that was a reasonable expectation, because realistically, ghosts can shut the door. So, and they can lock it.
Just take that sentence and really, really think about it. Realistically, ghosts can shut the door.
They can just go through the door.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I know, but they could. The point was not, are they going to open and close the door for their own sake? It was like to prevent other people from coming to help me. And I don't know why I thought I was going to die on the toilet, but I was like, if I die here, this is a really bad place to be traumatized.
Okay, this conversation's taking a weird turn. So let's take a vote. John says hoax. Manda, do you have a landing pad on this one? Or are you still kind of, I don't know, undecided?
You know, I think I'm going to say, I don't want to use the word hoax, but I'm going to say not substantiated.
I'm going to say that their accounts of events was inspired by a true story of whatever that priest said.
It's almost like we just talked about the movie and we haven't even gotten there. What would we change about the movie?
Yeah, the movie. Well, first, take out any account of the knowledge of the case and whatnot. Did you guys enjoy the film? And keep in mind, it was 1979. It's dated. I get that. But do you think it's a good film? It stands as a horror classic. I got to tell you, I've seen a ton of horror movies. This is probably one of my least favorite in the ghost genre. I just don't think it's run smooth. I feel like it kind of bops around a little bit and doesn't really have a real seamless linear path.
No, it doesn't. And the editing on it is really wonky, especially when it comes to showing the scenes of the DeFeo murders and whatnot. And then there's the ghost image of James Brolin. There's that ghost image where his face is inside the red room, and it's like, yeah, that's not good effects. So there's nothing really that's great about the movie as far as effects or story wise go, but I still think it's iconic to a degree.
Yeah, I can see a level of it having icon to it just because of the significance of the story itself. But the movie, I'm with Aaron. I think it didn't have a great rhythm. I think the scare moments were not. They could have done so much more to build the tension and make them more powerful and impactful. Even the moment when she shots up out of bed and she starts screaming, "She was shot in the head!" Ah! And then like falls back asleep. I'm like, it almost came off not the way they intended to. It came off very cheesy. And again, I know that this is a movie from the 70s. I like movies from the 70s, so it's not like a hit on it being older. It's just that it didn't feel like it had enough of the power to it to make it a good scary movie.
Right.
It felt more like they were just trying to tell the story in a lighter sense from even what we've heard outside of this, like even from the book and stuff. There's more gritty details that they could have incorporated.
I just found Brolin's performance was way over the top. And I mean, he just goes from, they don't really explain or show why he's becoming so insane.
No, they don't tell that story very well.
And it just goes from 0 to 60. He's just like, no, I'm suddenly very cold. I'm chopping a lot of wood and I'm crazy. What?
He got the flu.
I think my favorite part of the movie was when the nun shows up. She's in the house for all of 5 minutes. She's got a bail. She's driving down the street. She pulls over and
I liked how they didn't show her actually throwing up like today's movies. You know they would.
Oh yeah, today's movie they would have grossed us out with that, but that was still one of my favorite moments in the movie.
The other thing that I'll say is, and it could have just been the network that it was streaming on, no shade to Max or anything, but the audio mixing was terrible. No,
I don't think it was Max's fault. I think that's I think that's how the original was too.
Yeah,
I was like, dear Lord, somebody invest a few dollars here, please.
What my favorite performance is the worst. Sorry, Rod Steiger. But this is the worst performance because it's just like, what movie are you thinking you're in? Because the first scene you see him, where he goes to the house and does the blessing. And number one, the priest just breaks in. Like, he doesn't wait for somebody to let him in, but whatever. Right. He just walk, you know what? I'm here to bless. I ain't got time to wait for people to come back to the house. I'm just going to go in and do my thing and stare at you through the window.
He said, if the ghost can get in, so can I.
Exactly. Goes in the room, does the blessing, get out, sees the flies and everything else. And then, of course, he gets sick. So at the very early parts, he's pretty even keel, rational, doesn't seem too wild. As the movie goes on, the latter half of the film, he is operatic. He is batshit insane. I mean, his performance while he's screaming and when he goes blind from the, I don't know what that scene was.
It was a stroke.
It was magnificent and not in a good way. But I could not take my eyes. I'm like, you know what? Bravo. That is so out there. And he went for it. Like, he just did not. Even the guy watching him was like, what the hell is he doing? Now, I know he's supposed to be the other priest saying, oh my goodness, what is happening? No, that was an actor going, what the hell is he doing?
There's a couple other things that stood out to me too. One, this house, from my understanding, was a good house in good shape. It just had dead people in it, right?
Yeah.
Why is everything in this house dirty, busted, and nasty?
Oh, no, that's just what the 70s look like.
Two, maybe everybody is starting to feel sick because of the mold and infestation of bugs.
Yep, black mold.
Gee, guys, maybe we should address that, the black mold in the house.
No
Three,
spirits.
Some dumb situations, like the kid falling down the stairs. I'm sorry, who has never been able to walk around in the dark?
Did they literally throw a child down those stairs?
I think they did.
I think they did.
I mean, that kid looked like he was ping-ponging down the stairs.
He was like Mr. Bill. Oh, no!
It was so embarrassing for him. And then when the kid gets his hand caught in the window, I was like, bro, how, like, first of all, why are you so stupid? Second of all, how did you bleed like that from a window falling down?
Oh,
even
because
with
there's
the
a little
force
rail there that,
That can happen. I've seen that
had
happen.
my hand caught in a window like that before.
Well, it's
and
not
it did
just your hand. I've seen actual hands get caught in a window and bleed like that. That was... Oh.
And then he had nothing broken? Like, come on, guys.
Sure. You can. Yeah, your bones can sustain it, especially when you're young. You walk it off.
You bounce.
Yeah, you wrap it up.
So then he didn't even need to go to the doctor. Calm down.
I literally broke my toes, and my mom sent me to PE class. Trust me. Parents did that back then.
Yeah. No, it's a thing.
So anyway, those were a few of my gripes with the movie. I was like, guys, maybe just go see the city, because clearly somebody needs to investigate the mold problem here. Like, that's what I think. If everybody is getting sick in your house to the point where they're about to die, or like throwing up on the side of the road, or like you're sweating so insanely that you look like you have COVID, maybe you have a mold problem.
Or you're having such a bad allergic reaction, you need the fire going at bomb fire strength.
Possibly.
Yeah.
You need a lot of firewood. Lots of firewood. I will say, I think Margot Kidder was very good in this.
She was very good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've seen her in a lot of things. And in this, it's only been the Superman movies and this. And yeah, she's pretty great.
Oh, Black Christmas. She's very good in Black Christmas, too, if you've ever seen it.
I have to go watch that now.
Yeah, she was very good in that one. And I will say, James Brolin, his performance was good. I have no issue with his performance. I think it's the way that the character was written that was the struggle. Because I think he did what he was supposed to do pretty well.
Yeah.
He comes across just as a creepy guy. As a creepy, kind of weird dude almost from the jump. And it just escalates too fast. That's all.
This is where I think some of the editing probably got in the way, because there's some storytelling that we missed somewhere along the line, and they just felt like, oh, people will figure this out. So that's where I kind of land on his performance, because he knew exactly what he was doing the entire way through. So that's where I just go, they cut something out that we didn't see.
So now, what would you have done differently, or what would you do different? They're eventually going to remake this. They've already remade it once. They're going to remake it again. They made multiple sequels, etc. What would you have done differently? I will tell you, I think Amityville 2, where they kind of cover what happened in the house before, I actually like that movie for whatever reason. I think that's a much scarier movie. But what do you think they should do differently, either for a remake or should have done differently at this time? John?
At this time, I would like to see the Warrens be involved near the end. I would like to sit there and not just have it as the ordeal the family goes through, but also the aftermath, where you have the investigators come in, and then the first investigator, and then the Warrens show up. I would like, that's the only way that you can make it different enough, but good enough to bring it out today.
Yeah, I would love to see that too. And overall, I would like for them to be more intentional about what scenes they're going to invest in to corroborate that the ghosts have an implication. For example, the money going missing. That was like a 5-minute scene between the two parts to explain that the cash was missing, that I didn't feel I needed, just for him to be like, I'm going to write this guy a check, and the guy to be like, I don't accept checks, and him to be like, well, you either get this money or you get no money. And he's like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'll take it. Like, what?
And then the check bounced anyways.
What was the point of the last 5 minutes, guys? Like, this, it felt so stupid just for it to be like, oh, I misplaced something type level activity. And I understand it had more significance because he had counted it and da-da-da-da-da. But when I think about the movie was over 2 hours long, and I felt like I had very few impactful, significant moments that really elevated the story and the horror behind what they were experiencing. Mm-hmm. That to me really bothered me. And like, how many times am I going to watch people with flies? I get it. Okay. I get it. There's flies. There were dead bodies. There's flies. I get it. I don't need it multiple times.
Why do they always come near ghost rooms? Like, why do ghosts attract flies? They're not bodies. Are flies like consent spirits? I mean, they're stupid. All they do is fly in a circle.
They go to the dead. I don't know, man. I don't know how that connects with spirits. I could see it for like the dead body standpoint, or like the blood if they didn't get it all up or something, but I don't know. It's probably still under the carpet, let's be honest. But more intentionality.
Yeah, I'm sure they did not take the carpet up. Yeah.
No.
Talk about a fungus that grows off of like the remains of people that, or blood that's in a place. That's why you have professional cleaners come in these days.
And you know they had shag carpet, and that ain't coming out of shag carpet. Let's be honest, okay? So anyway, some more intentionality in the setup of this story, because I feel like we just were thrown into, oh hey, all these people died and this woman was shot in the head. What? Okay. And then we just bypass and go to the story that we're supposed to be invested in. I would have liked it to be more, carefully thought out and more rhythm to the story.
What I want is more of a first half is if they remade it or if they made it back in 1979, I would have preferred the first half of the movie is the haunting or alleged haunting, however you want to look at it. And the second half is the after effect. You know, sure, the publicity came, the conspiracy theories came, the critics came, that story. I think that would be fascinating because that's what I don't think is covered. It's just basically taken as gospel, so to speak. And a lot of the skepticism came after the movie came out, long after. And it's been going on for many, many years since. I would like to see more of that covered. That actually, I'd rather watch a whole movie about that. Just covering their claims. And actually, maybe you don't even get to see what happens in the house because that way you get to hear their accounts and skeptics' accounts and kind of make an assumption for yourself, kind of like you've done in this episode. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
Whew. Any parting thoughts on the Amityville Horror?
I'd say it's still a good watch to sit down and have. It's a good time. If you have a good movie buddy that you want to watch some fun stuff with, then I would say this is a good one to do that with.
Amanda, do you want to give Charlie a shout out or?
Charlie and I will talk later this week.
Okay. It's weird. All right. Well,
I miss him. Now I got to check on him.
I think there are far better ghost-infused movies to watch, like The Conjuring or The Others or something along those lines, but you do you. Don't miss our next episode, which I believe is going to be The Sound of Freedom, and you can always suggest an episode as long as it's inspired by a true story. Go to inspired@thehollywoodoutsiders.com, inspired@thehollywoodoutsiders.com. You can email us there and let us know any ideas that you have for upcoming episodes. And remember, share the show on your social media outlets and give us a review if you can. If you enjoyed this podcast, that really does help us. You are our best source of promotion. So tell your true crime maniac friends about Inspired by a True Story. And thank you so much for listening. Now, let's keep those artists honest.
And John, you cannot submit the story of your maids doing weird, unethical, illegal...
Foot shit.
Yeah, foot shit.